The night Luna Nozawa was declared dead, Los Angeles did not sleep. The city pulsed under red sirens and the hum of disbelief. Every news outlet repeated the same tragic headline: Forrester's fallen star dies in a fiery crash. But what no one said, at least not out loud, was that the truth of her death was already crumbling the moment it was announced. The body pulled from the wreckage was unrecognizable, charred beyond identification. Only dental records confirmed the match, but even those were strangely recent, conveniently updated just a week before the accident. The coroner's report was full of contradictions, missing timestamps, altered notes, signatures from doctors no longer employed at the hospital. Still, the press wanted closure, the public wanted catharsis, and the Forresters wanted the nightmare over. And so Luna's death became official, her story closed, her ghost buried under headlines and hashtags. But ghosts have their own way of returning, especially when the living cannot stop summoning them. Weeks after the crash, Katie Logan began noticing odd things. A flash of silver hair reflected in the elevator door. The faint scent of Luna's perfume, jasmine and smoke, lingering in the corridor of Forrester Creations after hours. A voice behind her in the parking garage whispering her name, low and trembling. At first, she told herself it was exhaustion, the residue of too many sleepless nights managing the company's crisis and its grief. Yet the sensations persisted, growing sharper, more deliberate. One evening, as she was locking her car, she saw a figure standing under the flickering light at the far end of the lot. The woman's posture was unmistakable, poised, fragile, her chin slightly tilted the way Luna always did when defying fear. When Katie called out, the figure turned. The face was hidden by shadow, but the movement, slow, precise, familiar, sent a shiver through her. By the time she reached the spot, there was no one there, only the faint warmth of recently disturbed air. Katie told no one. Not yet. Because Forrester Creations was already teetering between guilt and madness. Luna's death had reopened every fracture the company had tried to seal. The media called it a scandal of negligence, activists called it exploitation, and the fashion world called it karma. Within that chaos, reality itself began to fray. Electra Forrester was the next to see her. It happened in the studio at midnight, when she returned to collect her sketches. The room was silent except for the hum of the machines, but as she passed the mirror-lined wall, she saw movement behind her reflection. A woman in a pale dress stood just over her shoulder, her skin smooth, her eyes gleaming like glass. Electra turned, heart pounding, but the space was empty. When she looked back at the mirror, there was only her own terrified face. She pressed her hand against the glass and whispered, "Luna?" The echo came back delayed, as though the room itself was answering her. The sightings multiplied. A security guard reported hearing humming in the loading dock, the melody identical to the tune Luna had sung during her last campaign shoot. Steffy Forrester received an anonymous text from an unknown number, a photo of the Forrester rooftop at night, with the caption, "I never left." The timestamp was 2 minutes before she opened it. When she showed it to Finn, he insisted it had to be a cruel prank. But Steffy couldn't shake the sense that someone or something was testing her sanity. By the time whispers spread that Luna's spirit haunted the building, even skeptics began to falter. But the truth, as always in Los Angeles, was more complicated than superstition. Because someone was feeding those ghosts. An anonymous hacker had breached the Forrester surveillance system, leaking fragments of grainy footage showing what looked like Luna walking through the halls late at night. Every frame was distorted, her face blurred. Not enough for identification, but enough to ignite obsession. The video went viral within hours. Luna Lives trended across every platform. Bloggers claimed she had faked her death. Conspiracy theorists linked her to underground art movements and secret government programs. Each rumor blurred the line between grief and hysteria until no one could tell the difference. Katie watched the chaos unfold with growing dread. It was as if the city itself had become a stage for Luna's resurrection, or her revenge. Yet something about the footage felt too deliberate, too perfectly timed. She began to dig, pulling hospital records, traffic reports, internal communications. What she found terrified her. Luna's medical file had been accessed days after her death by a private research firm with no connection to Forrester. The firm's owner, a shadow entity called Arcturus Biodynamics, specialized in experimental reconstructive surgeries and psychological conditioning. Their clients were classified. Their funding came from anonymous offshore accounts. And one of those accounts, buried under layers of encryption, traced back to a holding company once linked to Spencer Publications. When Katie confronted Bill about it, he denied everything, too quickly. His eyes, for once, betrayed uncertainty. "Whatever you think you found," he told her, "let it go. Some ghosts aren't meant to be chased." But Katie couldn't. Because Luna wasn't just a ghost anymore, she was becoming an epidemic. Electra began losing sleep, convinced Luna was following her. She heard footsteps in her house, doors closing on their own, whispers in languages she didn't understand. One night she woke to find her computer turned on, displaying a blank email draft. The cursor blinked, then words began to appear one by one. "You took everything from me. Now I'll take it back." She screamed and unplugged the machine, but the message stayed burned in her mind.
Steffy, too, started to break.
She found Luna's bracelet on her desk one morning, the same one that had supposedly melted in the fire. Her children began mentioning the nice lady they saw outside their room at night. Finn tried to rationalize it, insisting trauma could manifest through projection, but even he couldn't explain the cold spot in the hallway that followed Steffy from room to room. It was Katie who finally voiced the unthinkable. What if Luna wasn't dead at all? The idea was too dangerous to say aloud, but the more they examined the evidence, the more it made sense. The autopsy photos had been sealed by court order. The eyewitness who saw the crash, a drifter with a record of mental illness, had vanished days after giving his statement. The dental records had been updated not by Luna's dentist, but by a freelance consultant hired through Arcturus. And now, reports surfaced of a woman with bandaged hands visiting hospitals under false names, her face always covered, her voice barely audible. Then came the final clue, a fingerprint, smudged but partially matched, found on a package delivered to Forrester headquarters. Inside the box was a single item, a mannequin head wearing one of Luna's unreleased designs, its eyes painted with the phrase, "See what you made me." That was when the story split in two directions, like a fracture in reality itself. In one version, Luna had indeed survived. She had been pulled from the wreckage by agents of Arcturus Biodynamics, who saw in her a perfect vessel, a woman destroyed by fame, ripe for reinvention. They rebuilt her face, erased her identity, and trained her mind for manipulation. To the world, she was gone. But to those who controlled her, she became something else, a weapon of influence, capable of dismantling reputations and empires through carefully orchestrated fear. Her reappearance wasn't accidental. It was a test run. The psychological unraveling of the Forresters was the experiment's success. The company's power had always rested on perception, and Luna's ghost had turned perception into chaos. But in the other version, perhaps the more terrifying one, Luna never came back at all. Every sighting, every whisper, every glitch in the cameras was manufactured. Someone within the city, perhaps someone inside Forrester itself, had orchestrated the illusion to destroy them from within. A psychological warfare campaign built on collective trauma. By weaponizing Luna's memory, this unseen puppeteer was dismantling alliances, breeding paranoia, and fracturing the family's unity. No one trusted anyone anymore. Steffy suspected Katie of leaking documents. Katie accused Electra of fabricating sightings for publicity. Ridge and Brooke fought over whether to shut down the company entirely or fight the rumors head-on. Eric, in one of his rare lucid days, muttered something chilling. "It's not Luna haunting us. It's what we did to her." The city became a hall of mirrors, and everyone saw Luna's reflection somewhere. Katie tried to confront her fear scientifically, arranging a private investigation into Arcturus. But the deeper she dug, the stranger things became. Employees disappeared. The company's address led to an abandoned warehouse filled with burned files and surgical diagrams. She found fragments of a project name, Echelon V, with Luna's initials scribbled beside it. But before she could decipher more, her car was forced off the road by an unmarked vehicle. She survived with minor injuries, but the message was clear: stop searching. Electra, in her descent into paranoia, began painting Luna's face compulsively, hundreds of portraits, each slightly different, each more distorted than the last. In one painting, Luna's features had morphed into her own. "She's inside me now," Electra whispered one night to Katie. "She's using me to finish what she started." Steffy, meanwhile, began losing control of Forrester Creations. Board members resigned, investors fled, and every attempt to stabilize the brand backfired. Rumors circulated that she had been seen talking to someone matching Luna's description. When photos emerged of a mysterious woman entering the Forrester offices after midnight, the city turned feral. Talk shows, podcasts, tabloids, all feeding the hysteria. "Is Luna alive?" they demanded. "Or has Los Angeles gone mad?" The breaking point came during a live charity gala streamed across the world. As Steffi delivered a speech about resilience, the lights flickered. For a heartbeat, the screens behind her glitched, revealing an image of Luna, alive, smiling faintly. "You can't bury the truth," her voice whispered through the speakers, before the image vanished. The audience screamed, the feed cut, and chaos erupted. After that night, nothing was certain anymore. Katie fled Los Angeles for a time, haunted by what she could no longer explain. Electra checked into a clinic diagnosed with trauma-induced psychosis. Steffi stayed, trying to hold the company together, though she began speaking to empty rooms as if Luna could hear her. And somewhere in the noise of the city, a woman with a new face and the faintest trace of an old scar boarded a plane under a false name. Whether she was Luna or merely another victim of the hysteria, no one could say. But as the plane ascended into the dark, she smiled slightly, a smile that suggested she knew exactly what she'd done. Because the truth was never whether Luna lived or died. The truth was that she had won. Her death, her memory, her myth, all had fused into something indestructible. She had become an idea, a mirror held to the city's collective guilt. Every person who saw her saw their own sin reflected back. And that was the real twist. Luna didn't have to come back to haunt them. They were already haunting themselves. The rain fell hard that night, a relentless curtain of sound over the city that had forgotten how to rest. Steffi left Forrester Creations long after midnight, her nerves frayed, her thoughts chasing one another like ghosts in a maze. The Luna story had consumed everything: her company, her sleep, her sanity. Even now, every flicker of light in her rearview mirror felt like a reminder that the past was still chasing her. Her hands gripped the steering wheel tighter as she drove through the empty streets of Beverly Hills, her reflection fragmented by streaks of rain on the glass. She had told herself it was over. The investigations had stalled, Katie was recovering, Electra was under psychiatric care, and the sightings had stopped. At least for now. Forrester Creations was bleeding, but it was still standing. The scandal had dulled into rumor, and rumor had turned into myth. Yet deep down, Steffi knew peace was just a lie people told themselves between battles. And tonight, that lie shattered. At first, it was nothing more than headlights in her rearview mirror. A car too close, matching her every turn. She changed lanes, it followed. She slowed down, it slowed too. The silhouette behind the wheel was obscured by darkness, but the outline, narrow shoulders, long hair, was unmistakably female. Steffi's heart raced. She took a sharp turn down Mulholland Drive, the road slick with rain, her instincts screaming that something wasn't right. The car behind her sped up, closing the gap. For a split second, their lights merged into one blinding beam. And then came the impact. The world spun. Metal screamed. Glass exploded. Her car skidded across the road, slammed into the guardrail, and teetered over the edge before coming to rest. Steam hissed from the shattered hood. For a few seconds, Steffi could only hear the rain, then her own heartbeat, slow and heavy, like a drum calling her back to consciousness. She unbuckled herself, dazed, tasting blood in her mouth. When she turned her head, she saw the other car stopped a few feet behind, engine still running, driver's door open. Through the rain, a figure stepped out. At first, the storm distorted everything, a blur of silver, motion, and light. But as the figure drew closer, Steffi froze. The shape, the posture, the way she tilted her head, it was Luna. Or, at least, someone who wanted her to believe it was. Her hair was darker now, shorter, and her face, though changed, carried the same eerie grace, like a memory half-remembered. She wore gloves and a long black coat that flapped in the wind. "Luna?" Steffi whispered, half in disbelief, half in terror. The woman said nothing. She stood just beyond the glow of the headlights, rain streaming down her face like tears. For a brief moment, Steffi thought she saw a faint scar along her jawline, the same place Luna's autopsy photos had shown damage from the crash. The woman's lips curved into a small, knowing smile. Then, as quickly as she had appeared, she turned and vanished into the dark. By the time the police arrived, there was no trace of the other car. The skid marks on the road were smeared by rain, the license plate unreadable. The officers dismissed it as a hit-and-run, a tragic accident. But Steffi knew what she had seen, or what she thought she had seen. The problem was no one else believed her. The following morning, she woke in the hospital with Finn by her side. His relief was mixed with worry. She had a concussion, a few bruised ribs, but she would live. When she told him what had happened, his expression darkened with skepticism. "You are in shock, Steffi," he said gently. "You've been under more stress than anyone could handle. It's not impossible that your mind—" "My mind," she interrupted. "You think I imagined it?" Finn hesitated. "You saw someone you wanted to see. That's what trauma does. It gives the pain a face." But that wasn't good enough. The memory of those eyes, cold, deliberate, alive, would not leave her. If Luna was alive, if someone had pulled her from that fire and reshaped her, then the nightmare was far from over. Over the next few days, small things began happening again. Flowers left at the hospital door with no sender. A note slipped under her room's tray. "You should have stayed quiet." Her phone rang from an unlisted number every night at the same hour. No voice, just breathing. Steffi tried to dismiss it, but when she returned home, the unease followed. Her daughter Kelly claimed she saw the pretty lady standing in the yard after dark. Finn said it was just a reflection, but Steffi felt the chill long before she saw it. That same presence, watching from the periphery of her world. When she finally confided in Katie, she found the older woman pale, trembling, and holding a newspaper. On the front page was a headline that froze Steffi's blood. "Witness in Luna Nozawa case found dead." It was the drifter who had testified about the crash, the only person who claimed to have seen Luna's car explode. His body had been discovered in an abandoned motel, cause of death listed as self-inflicted. But the photo accompanying the article, a crime scene shot leaked to the press, showed something odd on the wall above the bed. A word scrawled in red paint. "Forgiven." Katie whispered, "This isn't over. Whoever's doing this, they're not done with us." Electra, still recovering from her psychological breakdown, began drawing again. But the sketches she made terrified everyone who saw them. In one, Luna's face stared out from behind a curtain of smoke. In another, Steffi lay on a hospital bed with a dark shadow looming over her. When asked about them, Electra simply said, "She's not gone. She's in between." Meanwhile, Ridge ordered private security for the family, convinced the threats were tied to someone exploiting Luna's death for revenge or leverage. Brooke suspected a corporate rival, maybe a vengeful ex-employee. But Steffi couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't business. It was personal. And when she reviewed the security footage from the night of the crash, her blood ran cold. The camera facing the road had captured something, a figure standing near the guardrail minutes before Steffi's car appeared. The rain blurred most of the image, but the outline was clear, A woman, slender, motionless, holding something metallic that glinted in the light. Her face, though obscured, bore the same symmetry as Luna's. And at the exact moment of the collision, the woman turned her head toward the camera as if she knew it was there and smiled. Steffy brought the footage to Finn, but he couldn't explain it. "It could be doctored," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. When he looked closer, he noticed something chilling. The woman wore a bracelet, a small silver band with the Forrester logo engraved on it. It had been part of Luna's last collection. Only 3 prototypes were ever made. One had been buried with Luna's body. The next day, the bracelet disappeared from the Forrester vault. By now, paranoia had taken root across Los Angeles. Rumors resurfaced, tabloids revived their old headlines, and Luna Lives once again dominated social media. Some claimed she was an imposter, an actress paid to perpetuate the myth. Others believed she had survived, disfigured and vengeful. A few whispered that she wasn't human at all anymore, that Arcturus biodynamics had turned her into something else entirely. Then came the second attack. Steffy was leaving a board meeting when a delivery truck swerved onto the curb, missing her by inches. The driver fled the scene, abandoning the vehicle. Inside the truck was a single box addressed to her. When Ridge opened it, he found another mannequin head, identical to the first one sent months ago. This one wore a cracked mask molded to resemble Luna's old face, split down the center. Inside the mask, written in ash, were the words, "You didn't die. I did." The police called it a hoax. Ridge called it madness. But Steffy, shaking, finally admitted what everyone feared. "I think Luna is alive, and she's coming for us." Katie and Brooke begged her to leave the city, to take the children, and disappear until things settled. But Steffy refused. She was tired of running from ghosts. She wanted to end it, whatever it was. So she returned to the crash site on a stormy evening, retracing the skid marks, the burnt guardrail, the blackened patch of dirt where Luna's car had exploded. Lightning split the sky as she knelt beside the scarred asphalt, whispering into the wind, "If you're out there, show yourself." And then she heard it, the unmistakable hum of an engine behind her. Headlights flared in the distance. A car approached slowly, stopping a few yards away. The door opened, and a woman stepped out. This time, there was no shadow, no distortion. She looked older, colder, her features unfamiliar yet unnervingly familiar, as though time and surgery had sculpted her into a new person. But her eyes, they were Luna's. Steffy's breath caught. "You should have let me rest," the woman said softly, her voice both mechanical and human, a perfect echo of Luna's old tone. "But you kept calling me back." Steffy took a step forward, reins soaking her hair. "What did they do to you?" The woman smiled, a small, tragic smile that didn't reach her eyes. "They fixed me. And now, I'm fixing everything else." Before Steffy could respond, another car's headlights appeared behind her. Finn's, racing up the hill. He stepped out, shouting her name. The woman looked at him, her expression flickering between recognition and hatred. "You were supposed to save me," she whispered. And then, as quickly as she had come, she turned, stepped back into her car, and vanished into the night, leaving only the echo of her words and the faint scent of jasmine in the rain. Steffy collapsed against Finn, trembling. "It was her," she whispered. "She's alive." But Finn, staring down the dark road where the car had disappeared, wasn't sure what terrified him more, the possibility that Luna had survived, or the possibility that she hadn't, and they were all still trapped in her unfinished story. Because somewhere in the distance, unseen but listening, the woman's voice drifted through the storm, calm, vengeful, almost tender. "You wanted closure. I'll give you the ending you deserve."